Everyone remembers how Harry Potter's parents died. James and Lily, Halloween night, Voldemort at the door. It's the wound the whole story is built on, the boy who lost everything before he could even walk. There's another boy in this story, though, born the same summer, marked by the same prophecy. And what happened to his parents was worse. Not sadder, worse, because they didn't die. The films gave it about 20 seconds, one quick line about who hurt them. The books gave it a whole, quiet, unbearable story. And once you know it, that clumsy, forgetful kid in the background is never the same to you again. This is what happened to Neville Longbottom's parents. They weren't nobodies. That part matters. Frank and Alice Longbottom were Aurors, the ones who hunt dark wizards, the most dangerous job the wizarding world has. Both of them, and they were good at it. Gifted, respected, the kind of people other people looked up to. They fought in the first war against Voldemort as part of the Order of the Phoenix, back when being in that fight usually got you killed. And in the middle of all that, they had a son, Neville, born on the 30th of July. Hold on to that date, because a day later, the 31st, another couple in the Order had their own boy, James and Lily. That baby was Harry, 2 sons, born one day apart, and a prophecy that fit them both. The prophecy that started the whole war never actually named Harry. It spoke of a boy born as the 7th month dies, the last days of July, to parents who had thrice defied Voldemort, parents who had stood against him 3 times and lived. That was 2 families. The Potters had defied him 3 times, so had the Longbottoms. Both had a son born as July ended. The words fit either child just as well. Voldemort was the one who chose. He only ever heard a part of the prophecy, and he decided it meant Harry, half-blood like himself, and he went to Godric's Hollow that night instead of to the Longbottom's door. Dumbledore said it simply by marking Harry as his equal. Voldemort chose him. He picked which boy the prophecy was about. So on the night it all came down, the Longbottom's door stayed shut. Their son lived a normal life. The prophecy passed them by. They got away with it. That's what makes the rest so hard to take. They got away, and in the end it didn't matter. Voldemort went to the Potters, and he fell. The curse turned back on him, and just like that he was gone, and the war was over. The whole world lost its mind with relief. People who'd been hiding for years were hugging strangers in the street. Owls everywhere. The nightmare was finally finished, but there were still Death Eaters out there who wouldn't accept it, who couldn't believe their master was really gone, and were frantic to find him and bring him back. 4 of them came for the Longbottoms: Bellatrix Lestrange, her husband Rodolphus, his brother Rabaston, and Barty Crouch Jr. They decided that 2 Aurors from the Order must know where Voldemort had gone, how to reach him, how to bring him back. The Longbottoms didn't know. Nobody did. There was nothing to tell. The Death Eaters didn't believe that, so they used the torture curse, the Cruciatus. Pain with nothing else in it. No thought, no sense of who you are. Just agony for exactly as long as the person casting it wants. They held Frank and Alice under it, asking questions the 2 of them couldn't answer, and they didn't stop. Frank and Alice Longbottom did not die. That's the part people brace for and never get. The tragic death. The 2 heroes killed just after the war. It didn't happen that way. The curse didn't kill them. It did something worse. It broke their minds past the point anyone comes back from. And then it left them alive. They never got to die and be buried as heroes. They got to keep breathing in a hospital bed for the rest of their lives, with everything that made them simply gone. There and not there at the same time. There's a ward in the Wizarding Hospital, St. Mungo's, meant for exactly this. The ones with permanent damage, the ones who are never getting better. Frank and Alice were admitted, and they never left. As far as anyone knows, they're still there at the very end of the whole story, alive and out of reach. Harry lost his parents in a single second, a flash of green light, and then a grief he could at least name and hold. Frank and Alice were taken slowly, and never quite all the way. No funeral, no grave. no ending clean enough to grieve. Death would have been kinder. Which leaves the boy. Harry grew up an orphan, but a clean one. In a strange, sad way, his parents were gone, mourned, finished, heroes in a frame. He could build a picture of them and love it his whole life. Neville grew up visiting his. His grandmother raised him, a tough, proud old woman who loved him fiercely and never once let him forget the giants his mother and father had been. Picture growing up in the shadow of two legends who are still alive in a hospital and don't know your face. Every adult around you waiting for you to be as brilliant as Frank and Alice were. And every visit, the quiet proof that they'll never see who you turn into. And through all of it, for years at school, he told no one, not his friends, not anyone. He carried the whole thing by himself. The other kids thought he was just the nervous, forgetful boy who was bad at spells and kept losing his toad. None of them knew that this awkward, gentle child spent his holidays sitting beside two people who'd been tortured out of their own minds for a war that then forgot them. The bravest thing about Neville nobody could see. He was maybe carrying the heaviest loss of anyone, and he never used it, never asked anyone to feel sorry for him, never said a word. He just carried it. In the books, Ron and Hermione finds out by accident. They're at St. Mungo's, and there, in the closed ward, is Neville with his grandmother. The secret he'd guarded for years, suddenly out in the open in front of his friends. And his grandmother, instead of letting him shrink into himself, tells them the truth plainly. That Frank and Alice were tortured into madness, that they were heroes, and that Neville has every reason to be proud of them. And while they're all standing there, Neville's mother comes over to him. Alice Longbottom, who doesn't know her son's name, who doesn't know he's her son. She shuffles across the ward to Neville, and she presses something into his hand. An empty sweet wrapper. A scrap of rubbish. It's all she has. It's the only thing she can find to give him. His grandmother sighs and tells him she's given him enough of those to paper his bedroom by now. Put it in the bin, Neville. But Neville doesn't put it in the bin. He quietly slips it into his pocket. Every wrapper, every visit, he keeps every single one. Because it's the only thing his mother gives him. She doesn't know his name. But some part of her, every single time, wants to put something into her boy's hands. And her son takes each worthless little scrap and keeps it like it's made of gold. Because it's proof that somewhere inside the woman in that bed, past everything that was done to her, there is something that still reaches for him. That's the story the films didn't have room for, and it's one of the saddest things in the whole series. We tend to measure this story in deaths. James and Lily. Sirius. The long list of people who didn't make it. And those deaths are real, and they hurt. Frank and Alice are something worse than a death. They did everything right. They fought. They defied him 3 times. They lived through the war. They slipped past the prophecy that could just as easily have pointed at their son. And then, after it was all supposedly over, they lost everything anyway. Not their lives, their minds, themselves, their son's entire childhood, to 4 people who couldn't let the war be finished. And that son grew up carrying it without a word, keeping sweet wrappers in his pocket, and turned into, quietly, when no one was really watching, one of the bravest people in the whole story. The saddest and worst thing in Harry Potter was never the killing curse. It was the 2 heroes in that quiet ward who never got to die, and the boy who still comes to visit them.